Under Committee Rule 9, we'll now question the witnesses under the 5-minute rule. I ask members to keep our questions succinct so the witnesses have time to answer. Now I recognize myself for 5 minutes of questioning. Ms. Neely, in your testimony, you mentioned the problem of foreign influence in both higher education and K-12. Although the last administration failed to take this threat seriously, this committee introduced multiple pieces of legislation last Congress to help address this serious problem. Can you talk more about what steps Congress should take to protect our students and the national security?
Big picture, we have 3 things we need to do. We need transparency, we need notification, and we need consequences. Last session's TRACE Act and the Deterrent Act addressed these by providing access to curriculum so parents could know what their children were learning. Lowering the reporting threshold for the higher education foreign funding, creating K-12 reporting, and also looking into endowment funding, as well as disclosure to intelligence agencies about what money's coming in. Parents need to know so that they can make decisions whether they want their child in a classroom or not, and also whether school officials are receiving compensation or donations from foreign entities. And finally, there must be consequences. When these rules are broken, foreign actors, as well as schools, be they universities or districts, must be held accountable for that.
Thank you. Dr. Cooper, colleges and universities often blame a lack of state funding for college costs, costs increasing, excuse me, twice as fast as inflation. Increased costs always get my throat. Over the last 2 decades. Yet those very same colleges have billions of dollars to spare when it comes to hiring administrators, funding DEI projects, or renovating their new football stadiums. In your view, is the lack of affordability at many institutions a funding issue or a spending problem?
I would say it's a spending problem. The United States colleges and universities spend more per student than any other colleges and universities in the developed world, more than twice as much as many European countries. What's more, state funding has actually been increasing on a per student basis over the last 10 years or so, yet we've still seen tuition go up. So I would argue that it's not state funding which is the issue, it's the underlying costs which are the issue.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Taylor, as you know, we almost got WIOA reform across the finish line last Congress. Yes. You talked in your testimony about provisions of that bill that would improve the nation's workforce system. But for members who are new to this committee in this Congress, could you talk at a high level about why it's important for Congress to finish our work on those reform efforts? And secondly, I would add to that, in other words, why is WIOA reform an important effort for us to take back up this Congress?
Mr. Chairman, with the reauthorization of WIOA, we have a generational opportunity to strengthen our nation's laws to ensure that American workers have the skills and the knowledge to succeed. You mentioned earlier, we have 8 million, almost 8 million jobs open in this country. We need to figure out how to solve for that gap. Employers are hurting, and it therefore affects American competitiveness. Many workers are seeking an alternative path to a job that doesn't involve a 4-year degree. WIOA and its programs are an opportunity for us to deliver that to workers. And key to delivering on this promise is to ensure that more, not less, WIOA dollars go to skilling and upskilling dollars that provide quality. That's what this is all about. What we know with everything that AI is about to do to us from a displacement standpoint, WIOA becomes more important, not less.
Yeah, thank you. And then briefly, Ms. Neely, give us your opinion why in recent years, as parents have re-engaged, especially after COVID, that they are seen regularly as a danger to our public education system especially, but to education in general.
Unfortunately, parents, when they started to get engaged in the system, asked questions and demanded accountability that the education industrial complex was not prepared to offer. They have been used to having our children behind closed doors for decades, spending money as they want, and programming them as they see fit. The Michigan Democratic Party, in the wake of the 2022 midterm elections, said that the purpose of a public education is to teach students what society needs them to know. They presuppose that they know what families need, what students need to know, not what families want them to learn. And so I think there's a big divide, and that's why I'm excited that we have an administration that now views families and students as as stakeholders in this discussion, rather than just the activists and organizations that have been funding and demanding money for so long.
Thank you. I now recognize my friend from Connecticut,